Linda created the Tellington T-Touch, which is used around the world in 35 countries. And what's interesting, when people hear that Linda is involved with this, you know, it's people actually are buying units just because of that, because they really understand what a great reputation Linda has. And, you know, if Linda's involved, they know that this is something that's real. Why don't you talk a little bit about what you've seen with the BEMER veterinary line now that we've got it available as of yesterday, which is so exciting for us.
Yesterday was such a great day. I was very blessed because I was in Germany in October and I received one of the prototypes and I actually had a chance to start using it. And you know, it's so exciting. The first horse I put it on was one of the Olympic horses from Rio, he's on the German Olympic team that won the gold, team gold in dressage. And the first thing, as we took it out of this beautifully designed bag that holds it, the groom, Robbie, said, "Oh my gosh, it's so light," because the normal therapy blankets they've been using are really heavy. And so we put it on the horse and did it up, and it's really easy to use. And the next thing that he said is, and it's obvious that my horses are going to like it, because he said the horses don't like the heavy blanket. So here we have this beautifully designed, really wonderful blanket. And what happens with it, and you're going to see this because we've been using our pros on horses now for many months. And what we find, it's absolutely typical, is within 2 or 3 minutes, the horse starts to drop the head, the eyes start to blink. About at 3 minutes, sometimes 4, they'll start to lick and chew. They rest a hind foot. Now, what does this mean? This is so exciting because they're going into a state of parasympathetic nervous system control. And this means what you get, everybody, is relaxed, focused energy. So the horses look really relaxed, but they're really present. And this is such a big deal for the horse world. As we go through the slides, I'm going to be talking more about it. Well, take a look at this slide that's right here. This was just before the conference, actually just after the Orlando conference. I was back in Italy teaching. And you see, we suggest that people actually get an extra bee body and use it for their animals. And you can get the classic, so it's nylon on both sides. Although it really doesn't matter because they're so washable. And you can see these two dogs, well, actually, you go on and I'll talk about these dogs after. I'm not sure you're ready for them, but this is a very exciting story. Okay, well, I want you to see this dog on the right is only 2 years old. He'd had both of his knees, his stifles, replaced. And he was leaking urine ever since. And they tried everything with their vet. And 3 days lying on this BEMER, it was in the middle of one of my courses with dogs, and he wasn't leaking anymore. And I mean, this person is so excited because she loves this big dog, but you can imagine that's a real problem when, of course, he lives in the house and he's part of the house. So we started to see real changes with dogs. And I'm fascinated that dogs, if they're like hyperactive, they start to calm down. And older dogs have all kinds of changes that we have seen in it's just about the blood flow and the oxygen and getting rid of those cellular waste products. So let's go on and see some other slides. Randy, do you want to pick up?
Sure, I'll just add something in here. You know, I've literally BEMER'd hundreds of dogs and cats, and what's interesting is when you turn the signal on, so many animals are attracted to the signal, and they rush over and jump onto the bee body with their owner or with the person that's on it. And then they get very relaxed, they're very calm, and then we've also worked with dogs that were just at the end of their rope, basically, and with a vet that I work with in my hometown. And we've had, 4 dogs that were scheduled for, to be put to sleep. Instead, we BEMER'd them, and dogs that hadn't been able to stand up for a couple of weeks were able to stand up on their own and walk around, and they went home with their owner. So, we were able to extend these dogs' lives, which is so exciting. And so for senior dogs, it just works so well. So it's a really good tool to use to show people how well this really works, because so many people, Linda, will buy it for their animals before they buy it for themselves. And then once they see what happens with their animals, they want to get one for themselves. So maybe you can comment on that too. Well, I guess what I'd like to just add before we move on is that just as it does for people, the BEMER enhances general blood flow. What does that do? It increases our oxygen and nutrients coming into our 100 trillion cells for us and for our animals. It increases metabolic waste removal, which is so important for all of us, people and animals. And also then what we've seen is the physical fitness increase is incredible. More endurance, strength, and energy the animal has when they use the BEMER Vet. They're calmer and more focused. And that's what we kept hearing over and over when we've been BEMERing so many animals, Linda. And then also, just like for people, I believe they're going to be able to rest better. And when we're resting, that's when our bodies are recovering the most. So it's really very, correlates exactly to what happens with people. It's happening to our animals. And that's why it can make such a difference for us when we see what this product will do. So on to the next slide.
Well, I have comments because we've been beaming horses, for this whole year. And of course, you have to contain them in such a way that you're holding the box. You have to watch the cord, it doesn't pull out, and it works, believe it. So if you don't have one, get that body out and start using it. But this is so simple. And when you start using it, you just have 3 little places that you actually push. And Randy, you talk about that because you've been demonstrating this so much, and it's very exciting that it's so simple.
This is so easy to use. That's the beautiful thing. And then we still get such great results. I'm finding we're getting about 30 sessions out of one charge. So depending on the length of the session, and we'll go into that a little bit. Linda, go ahead. Maybe you should talk about what this can do for, transporting and that sort of thing.
It's way more than that. This is for the average person who really loves their horse, because what we're seeing with horses in the horse world, for those of you who don't know horses, it's really common that people say, okay, for the first 30 minutes, I have to warm my horse up. I either have to lunge them around in a circle or run them around to get the energy up. If you put this BEMER on your horse, just for the, even the lowest application, and you've got not more than 10 minutes to do this, once you get on your horse, they are ready to go. We're finding, and if we have these slides, I have a young horse here that the owner has had for quite a few years, and they've really had some concerns with her.
One moment, I just want to add something. Something you can use the new vet unit for is to help transport horses, because sometimes they just don't want to get into the trailer. So to BEMER a horse before you put them into the trailer, get them calm and relaxed, take the BEMER Vet off, and then load them. I think you'll see some great results there. And then also for the farrier, what we found is if beaming the horse before the farrier works with them, and a farrier could have one, and the first horse, they spend 8 minutes or 5 minutes BEMERing them. Now they're easier to work with. And then, of course, the farrier, most of them have some issues themselves, and then they can also BEMER themselves. So it's a great tool for people to, sell to their farriers, definitely.
Well, and also for people who are, actually working with horses a lot. Some of the trainers, for instance, in Italy, I did a 3-day training right after Orlando with horses. And one of the riders who was participating with me had been riding all day, and he came in and, you put in a hard day. He lay down on the BEMER for the 8-minute session, and he got up and he said, okay, I'm ready. Let's get the horses out and keep riding. And this is what we find, is that you can put in a good hard work at whatever you're doing, lie down on the BEMER and be ready to go again. And that's what it can do also for the horses. And the thing that I really am so excited about for more than 25 years, I've been really paying attention to the concept of the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system in horses. When horses are upset, not wanting to go in the trailer, not wanting to stand for the farrier, or just you have to really work them down for the first 30 minutes, they're under the control of this sympathetic nervous system, fight, flight, or freeze, or don't go forward. And as soon as we put the BEMER on, we see all the signs of the parasympathetic, where they can focus, they can listen, they're calm, they're willing, they're able to perform in a whole new way. And Randy, I want you to talk about what you saw in Las Vegas at the barrel racing, because I think this well, actually, I want to talk about it because after the third day of beaming, the rider was concerned, because normally if you're in a competition like a barrel race, the horse is high-headed, man, they are ready to go. And sometimes you're just on the edge of control. And her horse on the third day was very relaxed. Head was down, just kind of going along, not typical of a barrel horse at all. And she thought she was going to have a problem and not have a good run. And she had the best time she'd ever had in a barrel race. And that's because that horse was focused and ready to go. And this is going to make such a big difference in the racehorse world and all competitive horses. We saw it at a big show that Randy and I were at in Santa Fe in the summer. I beamed a horse that had been, the vet had been out twice to see this horse. And he was really nervous because he was in a hot stall at home. He's not used to being stalled, wasn't eating, wasn't drinking, and the owner thought she was going to have to take him home. We brought the horse out, put the BEMER on, and he was high-headed, kind of looking around, wanted to get out of there. And literally, within 2 minutes, the head started to drop. Another minute, dropped lower. The eyelids started to, he started to blink more. Then about 4 minutes, he started to lick and chew. Then he started to rest a hind foot. By then, he's totally still and quiet. So we beamed him another 8 minutes, took him for a short walk. This horse came back, drank like a bucket and a half, went in the stall, and started eating. And if you think that isn't worth its weight in gold, and the next day, this woman had the best jumping round she'd ever had with this horse. So it's like, oh my gosh, the number of people who will want this is going to, you just get out there and start showing it.
Yes, please. So I'll just explain to people how to start the unit. So if you look at it on the left-hand side, there's 3 indentations there. The one on the left is the start button. So you hold down on it until the 3 lights on the right-hand side fire up. Those lights actually indicate how much of a charge that you have with the unit. If all 3 lights are lit up, then you know you've got a full charge. As you use it, then it'll drop down to 2 lights and then 1 light, and then it's done. And now you plug it in. It's taking about 3.5 hours to get a full charge, to going from nothing up to a full charge. So when you're going into a barn, you want to make sure you've got a full charge in case you've got 10 or 15 horses to do, because it's going to take a little bit to charge it up. So once the lights are on, then you just touch either the left button, which is a 5-minute BEMER session. The top one on the right is number 2. Is 10 minutes, and the number 3 is 15 minutes. So if you just, once the 3 lights are lit up, you just push whichever button that you want, just touch it, and that single light will start flashing, and it'll flash until it's finished, and then you know that that session is done. What I've been doing is I start with the number 1 for the 5 minutes and just watch the reaction and see how the horse is doing. And if I need it, I'll go to number 2. And then if you're dealing with a horse that's got a major issue then that you want to work on, then you can go to number 3, and that's going to be the highest intensity and it's the longest duration. So, and then to turn it off, you just have to, it'll go off automatically, just a little bit of time if it's not in use. Once it's finished, it'll shut off automatically. If you want to turn it off, you just hold down on the left-hand button and it'll turn off on its own. Of course, anything to add to that, Linda?
Yeah, what I was with a designer in Liechtenstein in October, and one of the things he reminded me is please make sure when you first get it that you let the battery run all the way down the first time.
And to do that, I did that on when I got this one a couple of weeks ago. And what I did is I just kept it on number 3. I wore it down to absolutely nothing and then charged it up just like what we do with the Pro. You charge it all the way up without using it, get a full charge on it. Like I say, it's about 3.5 hours it took. And then unplug it, of course, and then you can use it and drain it all the way down to the second time, and then recharge it, and then you should be fine from there. You know, the whole package. The one thing when you get yours is when you open it up, a good thing to do is take pictures as you unfold it so that you can fold it back exactly the same way, because if you do, it fits nicely back into the carrying case. And it looks very professional. That's the nice thing about what they've done here is they've created a beautiful packaging and an incredible product.
Yeah, and we found out that that has little drawings telling you or on the blanket telling you how to fold it, and there's one piece missing. It's there should be between the last and the next to the last drawing, there should be one more step. So really, we took it out when I first got it, and we really carefully folded and unfolded it a couple of times, because if you miss that last piece, it doesn't quite fit in. And it's amazing. It's so sexy to have that thing slip in there. Everybody gets really excited when they see it. So watch that last step.
Yeah, so you might want to video you're just opening it up so that you can get all the folds back in place is what I'd recommend.
I would say this, I have seen this blanket be for the average horse that a person wants to keep healthy and be, I want to give you an example. The first horse I beamed, actually it was with the Pro last May, was an 8-year-old horse that was a rescue horse. He was just supposed to be for pleasure, but they'd have him, it's owned by a friend of mine who has a rehab center, and for a whole year they've been working with this horse, trying to get weight on him, trying to get him to eat and be rideable. And the horse wasn't rideable because he was so slow. It didn't matter what they did with this horse. They couldn't encourage him. They tried all kinds of stuff. And so we put the BEMER on him, and I actually put it on at 1 first just to see, and he was totally quiet. Then I bumped it up to a 3 for the second session. And then she left him for a couple hours because the rider had something to do. And then she got on him, and she just could not believe it, because this horse was willing to go forward. He had impulsion that normally there was no way you could get it. And he was calm about it. That is what we're seeing. And so she continued to beam that horse, and I saw him again in October, and he's happy. He's going forward. Several people, different people can ride him now, which wasn't possible before because he was really, not happy with strangers. And now this is a really mentally, physically, and emotionally well-balanced horse. So anybody who cares about the horse, you want this, but you want one for you too, because this should be for horse and rider. And just what Randy said, when you see how your horses really appreciate the relaxation that they get, but then the focused energy, you're gonna, if somebody doesn't already have the blanket, man, they're going to order their BEMER Pro when they see what this can do. I want to talk about this horse. Actually, this is a young mare that her owner had. This is another rescue, actually, and she has a lot of issues with trust, with her hind feet, with the bet, and when you'd ride her, maybe in an hour session, you would start to get her focus. But you can see this is how this BEMER Pro was adapted. It's a really clever adaptation. She put it inside. I can't remember if she said this. I think she just sewed this blanket for her to protect the pad. I'm not sure why, because it's so easily washable. But you see, this is over the neck and shoulders. And for a horse who's maybe short-strided or doesn't warm up well, you put this on, and with a new blanket, it'll be maybe even 5 minutes you're going to find is enough, but certainly 10. And then your horse is going to be ready to go, not going to be nervous or antsy. This is what we're seeing. The horses focus, and they go right into that parasympathetic state, which affects their heart, their eyes, their lungs. It's the very best thing we can do for our horse's well-being. And show it this other picture, and you can see this there. I want you to see her under saddle. I don't know where you put that picture of. It was up before on the left side of the screen. There's a little, it's very small, but you see under the second slide down on the right, this is this mare. Is there any, can you see it? This is like 5 minutes after she got on. And normally this, to get this horse going forward, listening like this, would have taken at least 30 minutes if they were lucky. And this is the trainer riding, and you know, so it's not for lack of know-how. It was the horse's inability to focus. And I was talking about it with 3 times endurance world champion Becky Hart. I was talking about it yesterday, and what she's found with her mare, she had kind of a, you know, short strided, as she described, a sewing machine kind of trot, not a smooth trot. And after 5 weeks on the BEMER, the mare has a very different, lovely way of moving, which is, if you've got a pleasure horse, it's also really good for the rider's back to have a smoother horse, and it's really good for the horse's health. And that's why I really encourage you to start first on the 1. It's only 5 minutes. And on this mare, for instance, on the right, what they found with the BEMER Pro, she was good at the lower, you know, at a 1 or 2. And when she bumped it up to a 3, she started to get antsy. That means it wasn't so comfortable. Drop it back, and she was totally calm. So what Randy said, I really recommend you start with your 5, and then just experiment. The horse will tell you immediately. Do they, you know, stay relaxed? How do they respond? They will tell you from their response. Well, can I just talk about this, Randy, on the left? This is the horse COSMO, who was on the German gold medal team in Rio. And this is just after a couple of, this is maybe 3 or 4 minutes on the BEMER Vet. Can you see down in between me, in front of my feet and the horse's feet? You can see the shavings are actually moved away. That's because before he was pawing, and he was kind of agitated because he gets lots of treats and he wanted the treats. And as soon as we had this on him, maybe 3 or 4 minutes, he calmed and kept dropping the head. And that's when they can focus. And what Randy said before, this helps your horses. If you are in a competition, it helps them rest. If you are going out for a trail ride, just a simple trail ride, put it on them before and they relax. So instead of having a spooky horse, you will find they're so different. for me, I just feel it's a opportunity for a person to actually be safer. There are so many accidents in the horse world now because horses don't get often enough exercise, and this is going to, I think you're going to be absolutely wild about how people love this, to have a state of balance in the horse. And when I talk about balance, it's not just the physical balance, but the emotional and the mental balance that keeps riders and horses safe.
To answer that last question about should we BEMER before a competition, my opinion, I would say yes, Linda. What's your feeling?
Well, the thing is, you don't do it the very first time. Do it at home before, you go, so you understand the horse's response, because just like that barrel racing person, she was really worried because her horse was so relaxed. Make sure that you know ahead of time what that's like. And look what happened with us in Santa Fe at the big show. When that one mare that won the class, she was beamed right before the class. So just do your homework and make sure that you know how the horse is going to respond before, so you're not surprised. You're as ready as the horse is and not worrying. And get out your pro and get beamed first, or at least have your pad with you, your B pad and your B box, and beam the rider.
That horse that you're looking at the bottom, that his name was Otis, the girl with the green shirt, the bay. That horse, some of you heard a little bit about this story, but that to me was one of the most dramatic ones. And Otis was all hot and did not have a good first barrel run. She told us that he ran past the first, hit the second barrel. When we beamed him that first night of the competition, he was dancing all around. He just was throwing his head, and I mean, I was worried he was going to step on somebody. And then we got the BEMER Vet put on him. We just were on low the first setting for 5 minutes, and it didn't even take the 5 minutes, and he had quit all the dancing around and had started calming down, and he was still nudge, kind of throwing his head a little bit, but it's a bad habit that she lets him do as far as nuzzling her. But we saw the head start dropping. We went to program 2, but even before that, the head was dropping, started seeing him licking the lips and just calming down. And it was funny, Linda, like we said, the next day, she was a little worried because in the warm-up pen, right, when they know you're on deck and your time's coming, 3 rakes around the barrels, that they run 5 barrel runs and then they rake the ground. Well, anyway, she was in the warm-up pen, and her horse, who's an Otis, was normally bouncing off the walls, just hot and running. He was walking around with his head down, and she was so worried that we put her horse to sleep and he wasn't going to go in and run, but it was just the opposite. He went in totally focused, had a beautiful run. She ran a 15.2, which is one of her best times, and I think came back the next night and we beamered, and I said, that's not Otis. He was just standing there. We'd only beamed him one time, and then that next night we beamered him, and the next night, and before the weekend was over, he ran another fast time of a 15.1, and she made it to the short go. Anyways, my understanding is her mom's buying her one. So and then I also want to point out the guy sitting on the right. This is just about the BEMER Pro. See the guy with the cowboy hat on his face? That was Sonny, and that picture's going all over. It's going viral, I think. The faceless cowboy, but that's Sonny with one of the vendors, and all the vendors around us. This is amazing. It's just, you got to let the BEMER do the heavy lifting, but all those, just like Linda's story, I love it. All these vendors, were tired, and they started sitting on the BEMER Pro morning and night. We were there 11 days total. All those vendors have either bought a BEMER Pro or committed to buying a BEMER Pro, and some of them more than one. And so, but anyways, yeah, it was a very successful event, and we are so excited about what this BEMER Vet is going to do for the horse world. But and guys, it's not just for performance horses, just like your dogs. If your horses are your pets, you want them to be healthy. You want them to have all the benefits that we enjoy from the BEMER Pro. So we want that for our horses and our dogs. So I just can't think of a better Christmas present to give your whole family and your animals and your horses and your dogs. And we can order these things now. So there you go.
Well, I just love this pictures with the faceless cowboy, because how I came into BEMER 14 years ago was at Equitana in Germany. It's a big 9-day show. We're there. You know, I always have a stand, and I'm one of the featured presenters. So I was doing like 4 presentations a day, and I was pretty wiped out on the 4th day. And I went by the BEMER stand, and just like this, but we lay on a flat table in those days in the stand, and when I got up, I was re-energized, and that's how I happened to bring one home 14 years ago. So it's really, this is very exciting, and this is a really nice presentation to have people know how to use this. We need them for horse and rider, and the dogs. I think you're going to get people interested to help their dogs, and they're going to wind up, of course, getting the BEMER Pro for themselves and their dogs for the time being.